Hey, welcome to another episode of Genre Play over here at Cabot Crossing, and this is where we talk about our favorite tabletop role-playing games. We are game masters with experience in various types of games. We sometimes disagree, perhaps, and as we share tips and tricks and stories.
Mhm.
So today we're going to talk about what may become a series of different related topics. And Woody pitched it. And Woody, why don't you tell us what we're talking about today?
Yeah. So I think it's safe to say that fantasy is the undeniable king of RPGs in America, right? But the thing is, there are lots of other games, and there's also lots of like styles of and genres of things you can do. And sooner or later, somebody may want to try something else, right? But like it's kind of like I had that conversation with this lady some time back where she had got my game and her players wanted to play it, but she did not know how to play a cyberpunk game, right? How to run it. And I had told her that like a lot of the stories are the same, you just reskinned, but there's also like and that got her going just fine. But there's also the point of there are tropes that associated with different genres, right? And so like we were thinking it would be helpful to do a series of episodes talking about how you run these different genres, and even within like genres like the one that we're going to talk about today, there are subdivisions, obviously, and some of these subdivisions are so specific that you could make entire episodes out of just those. But we wanted to talk about the like how you do run specific kinds of stories, and so we were going to start with the Wild West or the Weird West, depending upon what you're playing, and the tropes involved in how to run a Western style or Western themed campaign. There are similarities to fantasy, but there's some huge differences as well. And some of the the things that happen in those campaigns can't easily happen in other other types of games. So do you guys want to kick us off on this one if we're talking about a Western themed campaign?
Can you first tell me what Weird West is? I never heard that term until today.
Weird
Really?
West, Weird West was created by Deadlands, but it's become its own genre where you have a Western themed kind of game, but they've kind of blended it. Like in the default Weird West is a steampunk setting, but it also has undead, magic and demons. But you could also have cowboys and aliens, right?
Okay.
You're basically taking a Western theme and you're turning it on ear by adding another element that makes it kind of unusual.
Yeah.
Okay.
Make it a little weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tropes in the Wild West that are quite easy.
Yeah.
The desert imagery always helps, I suppose. Even though it's not all desert.
But
the trains, stuff like that, often helps, like old style trains.
The what one horse town, and you just have one row of buildings and that's it. They never stay that way. Like those sorts of places are, I think those sorts of places only actually existed in the movies, just because they had a budget of what they could do.
They would either build up around a mine or they would just die off.
Well, some of those are the ghost town is also an element of it too, because you have these boom towns, and it didn't grow enough for people to stay, right?
Yeah,
and
another trope that you can't miss in the Wild West is the saloon. I mean, you got to have a happening saloon.
You got to have people cheating at cards. You got to have the bar fights. It's interesting because we have the bar fight as like this. It is this iconic element of a fantasy campaign, but I think it's probably more iconic of the Old West.
Yeah.
And there's also Gunslingers, and Gunslingers is an interesting situation because it's like it's a duel, and duels, you could have a duel with swords, obviously, but the duel with pistols at high noon, it is kind of one of those things, like it has its own flavor, and you can't easily do it in a that same kind of thing in a fantasy campaign.
The gunslinger is very popular in Vox Machina. They got a gun. He's not really a gunslinger, but he's got a gun.
Yeah.
So let's talk about. So just to give some people examples of games. So you have Call of Cthulhu: Down Darker Trails, which we did play on Genre Play, which is taking Call of Cthulhu, the mythos, with the Wild West. Yep. Of course, Deadlands, as you mentioned, Woody, is one of the ultimate classics, and we recently played a game. That's
New
weird.
West.
It's sort of like a post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, but it's the Rich New
cyber-
West. We're actually going to be starting a campaign on this one this coming Saturday. Which-
Nice.
Which by the time this episode airs, probably 3 or 4 episodes in. But yeah,
We played
We
a
played
game
a
called.
custom one that I did.
Yeah,
Oh yes,
actually.
we played a custom one. You did. What was that with? That one.
Unbound
you played-
Realms. Yeah.
Yes, Unbound Realms.
Mhm.
And we played one called Tales from Elsewhere. It's a horror, actually post-apocalyptic, but like alternate post-apocalyptic where the apocalypse happens in the Wild West time, which I guess sort of Deadlands, but there was steampunk technology and stuff, and it's got very horror and dark based. So there's a bunch of them out there.
What one of the nice things about the Old West as like a theme for Aces and Eights is another one, by the way, but like one of the
Hill, right?
the one by Kinsler and Company, but the one of the things about this that's very add to the advantage of the game master is there's a wealth of material to draw from, like so many movies and TV shows that
any spaghetti western will do.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think the spaghetti westerns are your best references, honestly, but
even the pasta.
Yeah,
westerns.
Even the pasta.
but like there's so much reference material to look for inspiration.
Or what spaghetti westerns were based on, which were the Japanese movies.
Based on samurai movies. Yeah.
Samurai, Gunslinger, the Lone Gunman.
Totally.
Traveling Samurai.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff there, and if you just look up, like you always have certain professions in these towns. Like you have the one doc in the entire town, right? He's always a bit eccentric. You have the gunslinger of some sort. You always have many of those.
Gambler.
Gambler. You also have.
You always have thugs who are living on the edge of the law, and they still come into town. They still go to the saloon.
and there's the madam who's running the brothel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
And you also have the buxom waitress. So.
That's right.
See what he focused on.
And then you have the sheriff, right? You always have to have the law.
Yeah.
The marshal
and the priest.
And the outlaw.
And you got to have
a priest.
And you got your posse, you got lynch mobs, because like hangings
Plenty of lynch mobs.
Yeah, hangings were the default punishment, for crimes.
Yeah, it's a great plot point actually. Is they think you did something, and now you have a lynch mob after you.
I love that nobody's remembering the Wild Wild West movie because it was so bad.
I remember it
with Will Smith.
Will Smith. I thought you don't want to.
And the classic TV show it's based off of, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure the show was so much better.
I remember thinking it was okay, but I was pretty young.
Yeah. So apparently that spider that was in the movie, Brother the Robot, was supposed to be in the Superman movie that Bruce Timm was going to make.
I heard that, yeah.
And then the producer was so fixated on this idea that he forced it into this other movie because he wanted it that badly.
Yeah, things for spiders.
Yeah. Well, he got it out of the system.
Train robberies, really popular. We did a train robbery one. First one, and it's a popular one.
Got to get that gold, and trying to get the bank robberies,
banks. I forgot about banks. Yeah.
And trying to get the gold, and the payroll and all that stuff. So in
the
this,
raids.
Yes. So in an Old West campaign, there is also the question of like what role the players would have, right? And so people are going to obviously want to play a gunslinger, right? But there are a lot of options, you don't just have to be the desperado, right? And you don't necessarily have to be the lawman, because like people get deputized, there's people that can be prospectors, people.
But as a trope, that's perfectly good as well. Right? You can do those if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. But actually, deputizing a bunch of people is actually a good way to get a campaign started. Now that I'm thinking about it, because we have to go get this guy. We need some people. We're deputizing all you people, and then you it's an excuse to pull together a party that would not have come together. And then once they're done with that mission, there might be something else for them to go do.
I mean, that's basically Tombstone, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
And another element of the Old West too is that the Civil War was going on, and there's an awful lot of these settings where they're one of their main focuses is on finding an excuse to keep the Confederacy around, and so you have Confederate soldiers in a lot of these RPGs will have either the war is happening right now, or it ended at a stalemate and the Confederacy survived.
Okay.
And so you do have like these, and they also usually have Texas being its own country. So,
but is that in Deadlands like that?
I believe so, but they're not the only one. Like I think Aces and Eights did the same thing. But you do often have like Texas and the Confederacy are separate countries from the United States. So there's usually a division between the North and South.
Yeah.
So like escaped slaves. I mean, you don't see escaped slaves too much in the spaghetti western movies, but it is a thing during that time period.
On the one that I sort of made up that I ran on this channel, actually, the one way I went about it is I guess it would be considered Weird West, right? Because it was steampunk and there was like a special way to create power. Because if steampunk could have been a thing in the past, it would have been a thing in the past because we use steam everywhere.
Exactly.
The reason it wasn't was because coal is not compact. So in that system, I made it so that coal, the source of power was compact. It was like a new type of rock and stuff. And so I made like a whole thing. I thought of like the whole thing. Well, where did this come from? What makes it special? What can it do? And so when you have like a Weird West, you can kind of think of, well, what makes it weird? And how can I incorporate the source of that weirdness into the campaign? And so if you think about it, your backdrop is a typical Western, but the thing that'll stand out is the weird part you add to it and what creates that and stuff. So in my case, it was a special type of rock that came from another planet.
So one of my players is a big fan of Savage Worlds. So he's been playing the Savage Worlds version of Deadlands, which I guess is giving the game a resurgence now, because everything Savage Worlds gives it a game a resurgence. But he was telling me that and he thought this was hilarious, but apparently they have like some sort of a soul rock, which contains like the spirits of the dead in Deadlands, and people are burning it for fuel instead of coal. And so every time you burn it, it starts screaming.
Oh, really?
The trains are running on this stuff, and it's
like a death whistle from the Aztecs or whatever.
Exactly.
You blow it, and it's like,
so the trains are screaming.
Oh my god! Oh no!
Okay,
so bad.
But this is an interesting distinction here, because like if you're going to run like a Western themed campaign, I mean the two major genres are going to be, the Weird West and the Old West, right? And so the Old West is going to be just like all the spaghetti Western movies. But with Weird West, there's also the distinction of like, what's the difference? Like, are you doing it in an alternate timeline, or are we adding in fantastic elements? And it's interesting that in almost every time you have a Weird West scenario, they also throw the undead in there.
A lot of times.
Yeah, which is an interesting twist.
Well, that was part of the supernatural lore back then too, undead. So more so than elves.
And there's another aspect of this which I find very compelling, is that it turns out that the Wild West really wasn't that wild. Like we call it that, but like there was, what I had read somebody comment was that in a situation where like people were rare because there weren't as many people there, so the lawlessness wasn't actually as prevalent. Like there were gunfights and shootouts, and the OK Corral thing did happen, and there were that crime was real, but it wasn't just shootouts and gunfights every week. And like the lawmen actually had a pretty good handle on that sort of thing, and the people didn't actually tolerate that. So, but like from the perspective of what's exciting from a role-playing game, you kind of do need a bit more lawlessness. You do need that bit of chaos. Like the bad guys got to be real bad, and that there has to be like I think the point that was being made was that whenever he's got a gun on their hip, you kind of think twice about mouthing off. Like people have a bit more pride in themselves. They walked a little taller, and they were less. You didn't have that meme culture like we have, or mean like that phenomenon that we have where people can say whatever they want because they don't actually have to show their face. Yeah, everybody had to show their face, and you didn't act stupid.
You were going to go steal from a farm because they're going to come out with a rifle.
Exactly, and that rifle has a longer range than your pistol.
It was probably more like range wars for over territory and that kind of stuff happening on the frontier.
Oh, Native Americans, we can't forget that, because
especially
and that's actually one of the fun things about these.
Of course, culturally careful about some of this stuff historically, yes, but
well,
when you're in a fantasy world, doesn't matter.
Make them fierce.
Well. The thing is that was also a time period when we were at war with those people, and it was
Yeah.
what the America was the bad guy, undeniably. We weren't the heroes of that story, but like what I like about the a lot of these Western themed games is they usually give the Native Americans more autonomy, and they strengthen that aspect of it. Like they get representation better in those games because like it also works better if you have this other culture there that's stronger and more prevalent, makes for a more like complex and more interesting setting. But
yeah, I found it interesting how Down Darker Trails handle, because they're very historically accurate in many ways, but then of course there's this huge supernatural element, and they had Native Americans in that one adventure you guys are playing, and there's a lot of like superstition, and people are thinking they're doing bad stuff, and spoiler, they're not really, and you find out if you investigate. So
I think Native Americans get a bad rap. If you remember the Boston Tea Party, actually they dressed up as Native Americans when they did that, and it wasn't because they were trying to hide their identity. They actually weren't. Their identity was clear.
Yeah,
it was they respected Native Americans. I won't say wildness, but like the unconquerable spirit of a Native American. They actually respected that in the past so much that they dressed up like them to show it. Right?
We want to be badass, like the first cosplayers in history. So
yeah, they were the first cosplayers in history, and I think if you play into that, like. There's a funny book. It's not funny. It's actually a horrible book by a guy, a slave owner, who was very philosophical about why you should have slaves. And he talked about how the worst slave was a Native American. You literally couldn't make them slaves because they had such an indomitable spirit that it was impossible to make them a slave. Right? They would just fight back till they die. And I think that is such a good trope to have when you're having to deal with them in these old westerns, is that they are a warrior race. Like they're like the Cleons. Like they're a warrior race that are unending, unforgiving, and they will never surrender. Right?
Yeah.
I think that's cool. That's a cool trope.
Well, in the New West source book, there's a companion book to which I don't know, I don't have it handy, but it's called Spirit West, and the entire book is this same size, just about Native American culture. So it's like the two are meant to go together. And in this setting, like because it's post-apocalyptic, the native tribes were left alone and were able to reclaim their territory, right? So you've got so you've got this old West stuff, but then like over there's an entire nation of these people, and there's no way they're being defeated this time. And some of them are
magic.
Exactly. But some of them are highly aggressive, some are peaceful, but it's like, it's what I like about these settings is they frequently cast the Native Americans in a stronger role, and like they aren't going to be pushovers at all, and that they are people to be respected and taken seriously, and I like that a lot.
Yeah, most of the games I've seen where they do it, they typically tell you the reality also of whatever tribes, and then they usually paint them in good light. So I don't know. I'm sure there are games out there, maybe don't. I don't know, but I would play those games.
It's entirely possible. I mean, like in Shadowrun, that's a cyberpunk setting, but the Native Americans literally retook half the continent.
Yeah. Once magic came back.
That's true. Another one I ran was one for Thanksgiving, I think. I call it Turkeyborn, and it takes place in the back in the day, and I make it clear that you have some tribes that are very peaceful and work with the settlers and stuff, and then you have some really crazy mofo ones, right? And you can have that where they're very different.
It's the turkey punk genre that you're
turkey punk. Oh, we should run that campaign on here during Thanksgiving. I forgot about it.
Should.
But
yeah, you can. It's cool because they do have a bunch of different tribes, and some were crazy, some were peaceful, and all types.
I think one of the challenges though in like putting together these stories, like so if you're gonna run a campaign, you obviously need to pull a party together, but like most of our fiction focuses on a single hero, like usually Clint Eastwood, but like this
if it's good, I mean,
standing against.
I want to play the Clint Eastwood character.
Exactly. But it's kind of neat because like there are all these characters that would be the tropes that you run into. some of those could also be the heroes. Like you were playing the gambler in Down Darker Trails, if I recall. Or no, you were the preacher, Greg. Remind me.
He was really a con man. He was pretending.
Oh yeah, I was a con man preacher.
That's why I was thinking you were a gambler, right? But like, yeah, and it's an interesting too because like it's one of the only times where having a preacher is actually one of the essential characters you'd want to have in the party, which I think is kind of funny because usually nobody would probably be gravitating towards that. But
the preacher's a good one.
Yeah. And it is I think it could be a little bit of a challenge pulling together an adventure party in that kind of a situation, but like it actually makes more sense because the single gunfighter probably would get, wouldn't live very long. And you kind of need a team,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why Tombstone is a great example of one because that is like the penultimate, like people coming together to take care of bad guys type thing.
And there's
one of
two
the best
versions
movies
of it.
ever.
Yeah, two versions of the movie.
I've only seen the one with they have
the one. They have one with Kevin Costner, and then they have one with the guy from Enemy Mine. The guy, and he was in Inner Space. I can't think of his name now, but yeah.
You're talking about the one with Doc Holliday. He played by
Dennis Quaid. Played one of those guys, right? Oh my God, I'm failing.
I don't think so.
I know that Val Kilmer was Doc Holliday.
Val Kilmer played Doc Holliday. Yeah.
But it's like Hollywood when the movie is coming out. Hollywood
Kurt
usually.
Russell. So you're trying to say?
No, not
Kurt Russell. Yeah.
Wasn't it Dennis Quaid? Wasn't one of those?
Dennis Quaid's Dragonheart.
Well, could be. Well, because the thing is when Hollywood puts out a movie, there's usually another one right behind. So
Sam Elliott, Bill Paxton.
I don't know, maybe.
Well, that's that Tombstone. That's my favorite Tombstone. Is that one?
So
I'm be Huckleberry.
And there's always a colonel who's in charge of the of something, and he has a ranch full of animals that you never see but you hear them. Anyone?
No idea.
Blazing Saddles.
Yeah.
I remember that. I watched that again recently.
Yeah, and the bad guy looks like Andy Griffith for some reason.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
Daggerheart has I don't know what the setting's like exactly, but it's a Western-like setting. It's called Pistol Hearts.
Yeah.
So
Pistol Hearts.
Yeah.
It actually, if we're starting with this, it might be kind of fun to actually do like an after action report on how my New West campaign goes because I've started the guy. So we had just wrapped a long running campaign last weekend, and so now we're doing a new one, and I figured the New West is a popular setting in the people that like riffs, so we'll just do that. And the guys, not all of them are playing Western characters, let's say, but it's like I'm pulling together the campaign, and at least now I know who's all showing up this weekend. But it's it would be interesting to like I've kind of got the problem of like now I have to pull this party together, right? And so we would kind of be fun to.
Yeah, we could do a post. I just thought of another trope that you could definitely do. I never even thought of till now. Oregon Trail, except with like people attacking.
Half the party dies of dysentery by the time you get there.
Yeah, that's right.
So one of the elements I'm looking at is like, because by the time this airs, everybody will have seen it, already launched it. But I'm kind of like, one of the things they have in this book is they have a mining cyborg where they, maybe I can pull up the picture. They are we able to?
Prospector is a big one. In
yes,
this.
But I mentioned Prospector earlier, but like here it is. The mining cyborg is they've got a drill bit for an arm.
Oh yeah.
Right. There we go. Yeah. Thank you. And so like my cousin played one of these guys one time, and he called his character the dentist. Because the giant drill bit. But the idea that I'm toying with is that there's one of the guys wants to be kind of like a detective kind of character where he's out there helping people solve problems. And then I've got another guy who is playing a Native American psychic warrior, which is kind of fun. But the guy who wants to be the detective, I was thinking maybe there could be a storyline where people are disappearing, right? And maybe they're getting kidnapped and then turned into cyborgs and being made to be slave miners. And they're being sent out to mine something in an area where normal people can't survive. Like maybe it's highly radioactive, right? And so these slave cyborgs are being forced to mine things, and you got the little remote, hey, you can't fight me, doot doot. But having the party trying to like track down the missing person, and then maybe getting there quick enough to discover that his body is on the way to be sold on the black market and being parted out, so they could get the body back. Could they also put him back together so he can go back to his wife? So that's kind of the initial storyline I'm playing with, and it's just a question of like, how do I get everybody into that? And I'm kind of thinking of like, maybe one pair of characters is off hunting this, another one's like on a revenge mission, like, oh, that guy killed my brother, and like some of those classic elements, and have the two of them come on a collision course against this one bad guy, and then create a little chaos, with cross purposes.
Did we mention bounty hunters? They're really big in West. So
you do bounty hunters too. Another, like, you could pretty much take any, and I think it's kind of related to what you're saying, is you can pretty much take any spaghetti Western. Mm-hmm. You could take the main character and make them an NPC, actually. Mm-hmm. And they're the ones hiring you or working with you to get things done.
And I just realized that there's one other element we forgot to mention, is there's also the because the West was so close to like Asia, so there were always like Chinese people building the railroad, and there was that. There's always there's that trope of the wandering martial artist.
Kung Fu Legend continues.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Jackie Chan put a fun twist on that.
And dynamite. Dynamite is a great weapon.
Oh yeah,
yes.
Dynamite.
I was just listening to a video that Puffin Forrest did on that, and he was talking about how one of his characters, the players, was a prospector with a bandolier of dynamite, and the campaign ended exactly the way you think it would. So
he didn't make it.
No. Yeah.
No.
He actually went easy on them and had this thing where when they all blew up, he said that it ripped a hole in time and space, so that there's a timeline where they didn't die, because he didn't want to end the campaign. But then they were just as stupid and reckless, and it happened again, and like it just ended the same way.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many things you can do. Like, there's also, I believe there were like caravans back then. I guess it's kind of like Oregon Trail, but for caravans, for protection missions that would go very slow.
Yeah, there's a whole TV show about that.
Well, you also have the riverboats, right? That's another, with the riverboat casinos and stuff. Like the Maverick movie ended that way. But I was just thinking, right. the Mummy was an interesting one, because the beginning of the Mummy could have been a Western movie. Until it goes really sideways. But I love that part where they're being attacked by those Bedouin types, and then Brendan Fraser's character is holding the dynamite out, as like holding it with the dynamite. It's like, that's not going to stop him, man. But the guy's like, you're crazy, man.
Yeah, that was a good movie. I should watch it again.
They did not need sequels. Every sequel just was worse out than
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I don't remember the sequels. I saw them. I don't remember them.
You can only get away with one, because the second one was kind of like you're poking fun at yourself, and there was kind of a reason for it. But after that, it was just no.
The only one that got away with it was Star Wars.
Yeah, well, because it was built that way from the beginning, and the Mummy wasn't. Yeah,
I don't know if that's true.
Well, we have the third one. The third one clearly was not meant to be.
No. By the time they made the second one, he had 3 in mind. But the the best trope is Firefly for Western.
Yeah,
it's space Western there. Yeah,
but I think space Western, though similar, probably would be its own genre to discuss.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably so.
Yeah, because the space-based campaigns, there's so much variety in it now. But
if you think about it, it has all the same professions and type of characters you'd have in any Western.
It's a frontier. It's about the frontier expanding out, and
they even have the priest
with that. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. But it just, they're also on a spaceship, which
happen to be on a spaceship.
Which is, but like once they get off the spaceship, and pretty much everywhere they go, they might as well be in the Old West.
Yeah. Oh, just to add to your caravan thing, there's a TV show that was very popular called Wagon Train that ran like 8 years or something like that. So, and that's all they do. It's all the stories of them on those trains in different episodes. So you could do a lot with that concept.
Nice.
So, and one thing I realized, what just hit me, that you see these Western stories, and they always are like out in the desert, right? And those kind of environments, but like, nobody ever does one in the winter, and
because they all die.
well, it's interesting because out here, like 3/4 of my state Washington is a desert, which people don't realize.
Uh-huh.
And so over there on the other side of the mountains where the deserts are, it snows, and it snows hard, and the whole thing is covered in snow for half the year. And there's, the people just, deal with it because that's how they live. But it's like this desert is covered in snow. And
interesting.
Yeah. And so it's like, it is one of those odd things that you don't
I never
think
even thought about that.
Yeah. See, because people in Western Washington just don't go there in the winter. I remember years ago I was on my route. I was driving to Spokane, and something went wrong, and it had taken too long, and I couldn't get everything done. But had this overwhelming feeling like I had to leave the city. And normally I just would have stayed an extra day and got all the work done and come home the next day. But I just bailed out. And then, of course, you have to explain this to your boss why you didn't get the work done. But like that night, it snowed, and snowed so hard I would have been trapped in there for the next 3 days.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it was a weird this weird prophetic thing. But it's like this is a environment where you're basically on the edge of the desert, and it, like you have to go uphill to get out, and I couldn't have made it.
But the historical equivalent, right? The Donner Party for 1846.
Yes, but they were in the mountains.
Well, I mean, that's where you got hit a lot with the snow. If you're trying to do a caravan and get caught up there.
Huh.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just reading just now. Yeah, it would get to -40 sometimes. Blizzards in the West could just come and go really fast.
Oh yeah, and even during the day, like in the middle of the summer, when it's like blistering hot during the day, over 100 degrees, you can freeze to death that night.
Yeah, that's crazy.
When the sun goes down. Yeah.
Now living in a desert's like a paradise because it's dry and cool because we terraformed it.
Might be getting hotter.
As long as you have water nearby.
Yeah.
But if you look at California, like let's say 100 years ago, it was like brown. Now, if you look at California today in a helicopter, it's all green. It's crazy.
Well, they've been making an effort to change the environment, and because a lot of the soil is very fertile. And so that they're using it, they're bringing in an agricultural industry that did not exist before. So,
and the reason it feels like paradise is because you have modern amenities in a dry weather.
Yeah. So, okay. So to wrap up this topic, what are some ways to start a campaign? Right? Like how like somebody like we talked a lot about like ideas of like some of the storylines you could run and some of like the things that can happen, but like you have to get the campaign started, right? And so
I think the easiest one, the one I used, is you're hired by the local marshal, right?
Yeah.
That's
you become the posse.
Down Darker Trails, I believe you were hired to go investigate a copper mine. That's how it started. Yeah.
And is it better now?
Yeah. And another easy one to get people hooked is like a bounty hunting job.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, in the next story, that was a marshal who had a history with one of the characters, asks them to come there for an outlaw to track him down. So so that's basically a bounty hunting story.
And there's also missing persons. Another thing that actually happened, which maybe is like interesting, is like you also have the Pinkertons were a big thing at the time because they were being brought in to like break up unions and try to get the miners and like back to work, right? So like that could be another interesting idea is what if the like you have a mine that's gone on strike, whether it's whatever the reason why is, like maybe they found a monster down there, but like now you have the Pinkertons moving in to try
There's a monster down there. I'm not going in.
Exactly. But that's another way you could maybe get things started off too, because like the Pinkertons are moving in, but now the miners need help. Or maybe the player characters are starting out as miners, and then now you have this little war against the Pinkertons moving in.
Maybe if
something that happened. Yeah, something that happened historically is the railroads were brutal to each other. Like the competition, they would outright fight each other violently. To be able to lay track and stuff. So there's always those angles too.
And there were also Native Americans attacking the mining operations too, or the railroads, because like they didn't necessarily want it. The railroads are bad for their culture.
Yeah. Territory battles, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, there are a million adventure hooks, in something like this.
Because it's a frontier, right? It's on the edge of a civilization going outward and clashing with civilizations around there. and like in a potentially dangerous environment or a harsh environment, and if we're talking about weird, supernatural things, that could be mysteries.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're bringing in with your technology, the other culture is going to start picking it up too, and they're going to get those guns, and then that's not great. If you suddenly find yourself on technological parity where the enemy is now actually able to match you, that is a tough situation.
Yep, all kinds of things. So if you want to do historical, alternate historical, you want to do weird, like a fantasy world that has Western elements. There's a lot of Western stuff out there. It takes all sort of angles. I like the West because I can make a Western accent real easy.
Yeah, I think though that like players like having special abilities and special powers. Like they like that fantastical element. Like I think Kevin Sabita like he had put out a book or a box set one time that was all on. It was based on some Palladi books. They put out this. Somebody had pitched an idea of doing a box set game that was based upon ancient Egypt, and it was very historically accurate. It sold very badly, and his real takeaway from this is that like the players need something fantastical, something unusual, something interesting, and that's I think why some of these kinds of settings do well is because you're taking something familiar and you're adding a twist to it. And that twist of like it's got demons or undead or magic or ghosts or rocks that scream when you burn them, but whatever or steampunk, whatever it is, like you're putting a twist on it that kind of like changes it up and makes it more interesting. And I think you'll find that people are probably more excited about doing it that way than having just a straight up historical recreation.
Yeah, I'm not super big in pure historical reenactment things.
Not really.
I appreciate the work that goes into it, but I don't usually want it quite straight like
this
that.
One's in the future. You might call it a historical pre-enactment.
Yeah. Are they cosplaying actually as Western people? I think that's really cosplaying. Like I saw a movie. I'm a cowboy now. And
in this one we get robot horses.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's we're good. We're gonna wrap this up.
Yeah, I think we got a good primer on the setting.
People got ideas if they're not sure. Hopefully they have ideas now.
Yeah. If you can't get an idea after that, go watch Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Let us know in the comments. Some of your favorite games. Do we? What's some Western-ish games that we haven't played that we didn't mention? I mean, we'd love to spread the word about them. And what's some of your favorite tropes if we didn't mention any? So we should insert ones. But yes, Tombstone is the greatest Western movie in the world. That's what I think.
Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I think
what?
I think there's a lot of people who are going to have a duel with you over that statement.
All right, high noon. Let's go.
Three-way duel.
It's okay. You can like your movies too. Anyway, so all right, that's it for today's genre play. Everybody, go duel somebody. No, don't do that.
Gunfight.
Yeah.
When the dice roll high, we touch the sky. But when they crash, it's a bad